Hey everyone, it's Steve from the garden. I'm about 3 weeks away from my last frost date, and it's time for me to get a jump start on my sweet corn. Now the variety of sweet corn I'm growing this year is called Yellowstone. It's an augmented super sweet. So what that means is it's got the sweetness of the SH2 or super sweet corn, but with the more tender kernels of the SE or sugar enhanced sweet corn. Now I'm figuring I need somewhere between 42 and 50 corn plants to put in for my first planting. And I will be doing these plantings in succession. Even though I need somewhere between 42 and 50 plants, I'm actually starting 100 cells. So this is, well, actually it's 102. This is a 72 cell tray full, and then another 72 cell tray that's got 30 cells filled in. The augmented super sweet, just like the SH2 or super sweet kernels, look all shrunken up, and that's also how they get their name for SH2, is shrunken kernel variety 2. I'm just going to put one seed per cell, and the potting mix I'm using here, or the seed starting mix I should say, it's a combination of Pro Mix along with a couple scoops of compost and 1 scoop of worm castings. And I also added just a little bit of extra vermiculite to this mix. Now if you're wondering, well, if I only need 42 to 50 plants, why am I planting so many cells or starting so many cells at one time? And that is simply because, at least in my experience, I never get anywhere close to the germination rate that's listed on the package when it comes to these sweet corns. Package lists the germination rate at 92%, and it seems like if you get around 50%, you're doing pretty good. So I don't know what they're doing in terms of testing their germination rate. Maybe they just test the seeds without putting them in any mix, and they get that kind of germination rate. But in real world seeding like this, I say it's probably closer to 50%. Hence, starting 102 cells to hopefully get 50. Now some of the things I really like about this particular variety of sweet corn is not only does it have great flavor and great texture, but each corn plant generally will produce 2 cobs that you can harvest versus 1 for a lot of other varieties. And in my last year, my friends and I got together for like a friends reunion, and I brought a bunch of the sweet corn with me, and everybody just loved it. As far as starting this corn early, if I can get a jump on it by a couple of weeks, it allows me to harvest just a few weeks early, and sweet corn is one of my favorite things to grow in the garden. As I mentioned earlier, this is just my first succession of doing sweet corn. My other 2 will be much smaller, and I'm doing a big one up front because I do can quite a bit of this corn. Doing a bigger succession early, I'll get that canned up, and that'll be all the sweet corn I'm going to can for the year. That way later in the summer, when the tomatoes and peppers and other things I want to can are also coming up, I'm not trying to scramble the canned corn and tomatoes and make sauce and everything else all at the same time. And of course, we will do quite a bit of fresh eating of this corn. All right, so I will be planting this corn into the garden around May 15th. And when I plant this into the garden, I will also direct seed some more corn for this next succession. And then the third succession will come in probably June 15th or so, somewhere in there is when I'll do my last succession of sweet corn. In addition to doing sweet corn this year, I'm also going to be growing popcorn. And that I will definitely direct seed, because that's a long season there. Is you put those seeds in the ground, those plants get really tall, and you have to wait for them to pretty much dry out on the plant before you go and harvest that. So there's not really a big rush to go and get that done. I'm going to get this watered in and get these covered up with a humidity dome so that they can germinate. And we'll come back next week to see how much germination we got. So for you, it'll be just a moment, but for me, it'll be a week. It's been 1 week since we started the corn. So let's go ahead and take a look, see how we did on germination and where they're at. This was a smaller tray, which had 30 cells started. And I had 2 cells that did not germinate. This is the larger tray, which was 72 cells, and I had 16 cells that didn't germinate. Most of the plants are somewhere between 1 inch and 2 inches tall, although there is quite a big one right there in the middle. And there's a couple that are just starting to sprout, like this one. As you can see, the plants are growing quite quickly, and I ended up with an overall germination rate of 82%, which for corn is just fantastic. That is probably the best germination rate I've had at corn that I can remember. So I'm really looking forward to getting these out into the garden in a couple weeks once the weather warms up, and then look forward to an early harvest compared to what would normally be available in my area. As I mentioned previously, once I transplant these out, I will also direct seed the next succession of corn. So I hope you enjoyed coming along on my little jump start of the sweet corn. Got something out of it, and we'll see you on the next one.